Happy Super Bowl week, everybody. Welcome on in. Chris Hassel, Amanda Guerra, and Leger Douzable. Leger ranked his top Super Bowls of all time earlier on CBS Sports.
I did.
And he actually says that this matchup, Chiefs-Eagles, was the best Super Bowl he ever saw a couple years ago.
Were you there in person, or were you watching it on TV?
No, so I was there with you guys the whole week, remember? Then I had to go to Stanford. I had to go to Stanford, remember, on that Saturday to do
See, I meant the actual day
work all week. We're going to send you to Connecticut.
I meant the day of the Super Bowl, because during Super Bowl day, normally we're all running around like crazy. Yeah. We are here this week. So, look, let's get into it. Look, by the way, Super Bowl week, a lot of things are going on today. So the teams are there. You have opening night tonight. That's when everybody can go kind of, it's fun, but you ask the players and coaches questions. Roger Goodell is going to be addressing the media today. Potential changes. I'm sure he's going to be asked about the refs. But I want to go back. Let's go back. We're going to be talking about Super Bowl 57 and lessons learned. Why was this for you the best Super Bowl?
This Super Bowl had you on the edge of your seats, right? The Eagles started off and they scored on their first drive. I think they were up by 10 points going into half, and it was like two heavyweight fighters going back and forth. This game went back and forth, back and forth. Jalen Hurts ends up having a fumble that Nick Bolton scoops and scores in the first half. And the only thing that was missing was Jalen Hurts getting the ball at the end, because I thought he was the best player in the Super Bowl. Now, obviously, you can't turn the football over, but when you look at what he did, right, he had 3 rushing touchdowns, over 300 yards passing, and he led the Eagles in rush yards, so he was the best player on the field. Everybody talks about the James Bradberry defensive holding call, which was, by the letter of the law, the right call, but this game was great because it was back and forth the entire time.
And you know that as weighing on Jalen Hurts, he was asked, what is your most vivid memory from that year? This is what he had to say.
Your most vivid memory of that Super Bowl?
Next question.
He's got anger.
All
he's got
business.
Fire
I love
in his
it.
belly.
All business.
I don't know, Pete, do you not agree with that statement from Jalen Hurts?
It was a fair question,
You're making
Pete.
a weird face, Pete.
Well, answer the damn question. Of course there's something you remember from it. I mean, my gosh, is it really? Like I always say, if the worst thing that happens in your life is you lost a football game, then you had a damn good life. Come on, answer the question. That's ridiculous. Give me a break.
He'll be
Locked
asked.
in, Pete. He's locked in.
I'm not mad about it. Look, he's going to be asked about it again tonight, I'm pretty sure. So we're going to go lessons learned for the Eagles from that Super Bowl. Try to correct him going into this game. Pete, I'll start with you on this one. We asked you to come up with 2 of them. And this one has to do with putting away the Chiefs early. The Eagles in that Super Bowl, they were up 10 at half.
Yeah, they were. And look, 10-point lead at half is nothing against Patrick Mahomes. And the Eagles found that out the hard way. And maybe with a questionable call, though it was holding, but they found out the hard way. You have to put him away. If you have a chance, don't let him come back. And if you get a 10-point lead, make it 17 and keep trying to do what you're doing. Put that team away, because if that guy's alive and kicking and throwing the football at the end of the game with a chance to come back and win it or tie it and send it to overtime, he's going to do it because that's who he is. Patrick Mahomes is the greatest clutch quarterback in the history of the league in terms of the big games. And so if you're the Eagles this time around, if you get a lead and it's 10 at the half, make it 17. If it's 17, I'd recommend you make it 24. Put that team away.
I agree with Pete, because when you look at what Patrick Mahomes has done, I think Joe Burrow was the only one to beat him in a close game when it came to the playoffs. So this is a guy that if the game is close and he gets the ball last, you have no shot. Patrick Mahomes is going to beat you. He's going to break your heart. Josh Allen has learned that lesson the hard way the last couple of years, and he learned it just a week ago versus the Buffalo Bills. So I agree with Pete. You have to be able to put them away if you had a league. Like you said, if it's 10 points, that's not enough for Patrick Mahomes. Try to get it to 17 or 20. Easier said than done.
Make it 40, 50.
I would say it's easier said than done.
So this is my question, because we've seen this with a couple teams this postseason. Pete, where does it come from extending the lead to being aggressive? I mean, are we talking like go for it on those 4th downs? Where do you find that good balance there?
Yeah, don't play scared. That's the one thing. And look, Nick Sirianni usually doesn't, but you can't go into a big game and play scared. If they go into a big game and play scared, it's going to cost them a chance to win it. So be who you are. Don't get caught up in the moment. And if you have those 4th down plays, I'm usually one kick field goals, but you don't kick field goals against Patrick Mahomes in the biggest game of all. So be aggressive Take your shots, take some throws down the field, and then when you have an opportunity to go up, if it's going to make you go up 13 or go up 17, try and go up 17 because you're going to need it.
Leger, you mentioned how great Jalen Hurts was in that game. 3 touchdowns on the ground. He ran for 70 yards, but they didn't get anything from the running backs in that game. A little bit different with Saquon now.
Correct, and you got to think that's the focal point of their offense, so they have to be consistent in running the football. To your point, DeAndre Swift in that Super Bowl 2 years ago had 7 carries for 16 yards. That's not going to get it done against the Kansas City Chiefs. It'll be interesting to see what Steve Spagnuolo does to try to mitigate this potent run game from the Philadelphia Eagles. And you look at Saquon Barkley, just 30 yards away, guys, 30 yards away from becoming the all-time single-season rushing record holder when it comes to regular season and the playoffs. So he's been special this year. Now, me and Pete actually talked about this. The siding on the field was an issue that game. A lot of players were slipping left and right. I went back and watched that game just over an hour ago. And even the running backs trying to cut and put their foot in the ground was a real struggle. This will be in a dome. It'll be field turf, so that shouldn't be an issue. The Philadelphia Eagles have to be consistent in running the football.
The thing I want to see here is what Steve Spagnuolo does to try and take away Barkley. Because Spagnuolo's been arguably the best coordinator in the history of the postseason. Remember what he did to the undefeated Patriots when he was with the Giants. I think there's a chance that he could devise something to try and take away Barkley. You're not going to completely take him away, but I'm talking about limit those big runs. And sometimes maybe you start taking out the legs of the pullers and get creative that way. I do think that that's going to be the focal point, is to take away the ability of him to rip off those big runs. He might get 80 yards, just don't allow him to get 150.
We're going through lessons that the Eagles need to have learned. And you talked about Spags needing to shut down Saquon Barkley here. Pete, this goes to your next point, but on the flip side of it, trying to contain Travis Kelce, because it does feel when Patrick Mahomes is going to take a shot down the field, somehow Travis Kelce is always there.
Yeah, and he had 81 yards and a touchdown on 6 catches in the last Super Bowl meeting between these two teams, and you can't allow that to happen. And it's going to be a real challenge for the Eagles. The Eagles play a lot of zone, and, Travis Kelce is arguably the best tight end ever at sitting down in the soft spots and zones, and Mahomes knows that. He leans on that. It's a big part of what they do. So do you change things up? Do you match up with them? I think they need to beat them up at the line of scrimmage as much as possible. If you look back at some of the teams that have, done a nice job on them, they don't let them get into the route as easily as some other teams do. So I think there will be a plan devised to try and take him away. But more than anything, be aware where he is. And if he is in line, beat him up. If he's out wide, make sure you bracket him sometimes. Don't just allow him to turn around, sit down in the middle of the zone, and catch a football and move the chains. I think that's how you're going to get beat. He's going to end up with a lot of catches.
Yeah, Pete, you can't allow Travis Kelce free access into your secondary. And I go back and I watched that game from 2 years ago versus the Eagles. Jonathan Gannon played a lot of zone coverage, and that's why he had a lot of success. And even when they went man coverage, he would beat the jam at the line of scrimmage and win. So you have to put hands on him. I thought the Buffalo Bills did a really good job in match zone coverage, where they played zone coverage, but once Travis Kelce went into an area, the defender would match him and essentially play man coverage. You have to disrupt that timing between Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. You see it right there. In the playoffs, this guy is at his best. You have to make sure you mess up that timing. Do not allow him free access into the secondary.
And I think you also wonder, is this his last Super Bowl? They have some plays drawn up that they've just been waiting this whole time, and they're going to try to get Travis Kelce those final targets in his final game.
Do you guys think this is his last game?
I think if they win it, this could be his last game.
Pete?
Could be, yeah. Yeah, I think it could be, definitely.
And I know Danny Cannell wants to know if he's going to propose to Taylor Swift.
Do it, man.
Okay.
Do
Storybook.
it. Chris was all over Taylor Swift last night at the Grammys. He read into her whole outfit.
The Grammys in my life. We continue to talk about things that the Eagles can take from that game 2 years ago that went back and forth, and they ended up losing by 3. Leger, your next one is play turnover free. Yeah. I mean, it really does mean free, because they only turned it over once. But, man, that was the difference in the game. And
you said it. That was the difference in the game. A scoop and score by Nick Bolton. And the thing is, the Kansas City Chiefs execute at a high level. If you turn it over one time, that's too many times. They lost the turnover margin last week to the Buffalo Bills and still won the game. Yeah. So if you turn it over, you have no chance to beat them. So they got to play mistake-free, whether that's Jalen Hurts holding on to the ball, whether he's a runner, whether that's him in the pocket, and guys are trying to strip at the football. They have to play mistake-free, because no team executes at a higher level than the Kansas City Chiefs. You cannot give them more bites at the apple on offense. You got to play mistake-free.
Yeah, and again, that goes back to running the football. If you run the football, usually you have a much better chance to play mistake-free football, and that's why the Eagles have been really good at it down the stretch. So I think run the ball, don't take as many chances down the field. I think they can limit those mistakes, but you're right. If you turn it over against the Chiefs, you will pay.